Good morning, Tina. Welcome to this morning's Coffee Brew. I hope you had a wonderful week. Good morning, Gayla. I am doing great. I hope you are as well. Thank you for joining us this morning. Francie, good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Jamma, good morning, Jamma. Welcome to this morning's Coffee Brew. I hope you had a wonderful week. Give it about 2 more minutes here, and then less than 2 minutes, and then we'll get it going. Kitty Q, good morning. Welcome to this morning's Coffee Brew. Oh, these old bones, they ache every morning. Just trying to live my life. I can't see the temperature. I think it's 38 degrees where I am. I'm feeling really low. My Nan's funeral is Monday. I'm sorry. Sprinkled Donut. Happy Saturday, everyone. Happy Saturday to you too, Sprinkled Donut, and welcome to this morning's Coffee Brew. I hope you had a wonderful week. But Gemma, you know, we all deal with grief in a different way. You know, it's never easy for anyone. Some people internalize it and stuff it down, you know, and don't deal with it. Let yourself feel the feelings, you know, the emotions of it all. It's the only advice that I can give to you. And remember your Nana in the way that you want to remember her. All right. It's come to that time of the morning. Coffee Brew. And this is a brief description of what this show is all about. Every case is covered here is documented with several verified sources. Some of the content discussed in the show here may not be suitable for all ages or all audiences. This is real life, raw and unedited and factual. Viewer discretion is strongly advised. Opinions expressed in this program do not necessarily match the opinions of sloths or advertisers. And by sloths, I am making fun of YouTube. They are the sloths, in my opinion. First case is Gabby Petito. As part of the ongoing civil lawsuit filed by Gabby's parents seeking $50 million in damages, they contend the Moab Police Department could have prevented her murder by arresting Brian Laundrie then, and they failed to protect Gabby from Brian. Every single one of these you see on the screen should have a clickable link to it, the actual articles where they come from. Again, just because I give you one source does not mean that that is the only source for the information. I actually read the partial transcript that is of the case at this point. Of course, I only read 102 of the pages. I did not read all 300. So it's actually 302 pages of the transcript at this point. And this trial is nowhere near completed. Next one. Oh, put the body in the bag along with the money. These two women who are pictured on the screen here are accused, not acquitted, it should be accused, of driving their dead friend to the bank so they could remove money from his bank account. This was at the he got his pension and his Social Security retirement check, and he had passed away. So they propped him up in the car and then told the driver when they went through the drive-through that he was actually asleep in the car and that he had filled out the withdrawal slip, and the bank went with it, and they gave these two ladies money, and they because they couldn't access his money through an ATM because they didn't know his PIN number, but they did use his debit card at least one other place. But the link that is on the screen there is from the Daily Mail. So you should be able to click on that if you want to read or follow this story anymore. They have been charged with right now. I think that I'm not sure because the DA said that there more charges were pending, but right now there's a total of 4 felonies that have been filed against them. Two felonies for each of them. But they wanted to clean out his bank account because they wanted that money, and that was their friend. Unfortunately, they did that to him after death. Next one is Jesse Alvarez, Murder 101, is on trial for murder in California. He is accused of killing his ex-lover, Mario Fierro. The problem is he left when the police came to search the home as part of a cursory search. They weren't even looking for evidence that it was a murder at this point necessarily. There were a couple of detectives who didn't believe his story, but his computer in the living room was open, and they just walking around looking, at the actual case itself. He had actually searched how to kill your ex fiance, and it was right there on the computer when they walked into the room. That's not that all that bright. I was going to add him to my dumb criminals for the week, but well, other ones beat him out. But that's pretty dumb. Google is not your friend, ladies and gentlemen. And if you do decide to kill someone and you Google how to do it, please close your browser, down. Don't leave it there. So when the police come to talk to you, investigate the murder, crime, death of your loved one. I mean, it doesn't take that much. A moving of the mouse to the X and close it. Get a screensaver that is on and active, because they could only search for what is in plain sight. They didn't have a warrant to search the entire premises, but it was in plain sight right there on the computer, and there was no screensaver active. So you can read more about this again with the link that's on the screen. Next, the cold case has finally been solved in Virginia. They have arrested Elroy Harrison, age 65, in this murder case. This case has been cold for so long. It has been bounced around, especially in true crime groups across the world. Good morning, Colleen. But this guy, he has been positively identified now through DNA and other evidence that they had, obscured, along the way in the case. But they now finally have been able to solve this case of Jackie Lard. It's good, but I mentioned briefly there that it bounced around within true crime groups. I know this case has been discussed quite a bit, and people had looked into it over on Web Sleuth's, website. It has been talked about in Facebook groups on true crime buffs who have looked at it, who have speculated that it was a totally different man altogether. But like I said, they've arrested Elroy Harrison, age 65, in this past week, in this case. So trial and everything and all that is still yet to come. But obviously he is presumed innocent, until proven guilty in a court of law. But at this point in time, everything points to Elroy Harrison is the actual culprit, the person who killed Jacqueline Jackie Lard. Next one. Well, this is, oh, right. Know the facts. The oldest cold case of murder was a murder of Ira Garza. Her case was open but had no leads for 55 years. It was solved and finally closed just after the anniversary of the 57th year. John Fiat was convicted of her murder. There are other cold cases that have been solved of murder, but either the perpetrator, the murderer, was either deceased themselves or it never went to trial. There are quite a few examples of cold cases where they've solved it, using DNA evidence. Now the DNA is very prevalent in solving cold cases. They're able to say, oh, this was the ex-husband was the person, or this person, was the person who actually killed this person, this other person. We can now prove it with DNA. But after so many years, the person is deceased. There's no reason for it to take it to trial. But let's just say 99.9% of the evidence, and including DNA, points that this is the person who actually committed the crime. But there have been other cases that in that circumstance where they never went to trial. The oldest case is at 80 years. 80 years. It was finally, the case was officially closed, but that person never went to trial. Obviously, they were dead. Next one, Hannah Gutierrez Reed was found, this is from the Rust trial, was found guilty of involuntary manslaughter, stemming from her improper use, storage of guns and ammunition there on the movie set of Rust. Okay, the link is on the screen from NBC if you wish to read, and follow more along this, in this case. But Hannah was found guilty of involuntary manslaughter. Now, next is we have the more evidence that is being fought over if it's going to be used in the case against the actor. For some reason, I'm drawing a blank on his damn name right now, but you all know who I'm talking about. He was on 30 Rock, but all right, excuse me. But she was found guilty of involuntary manslaughter, and I personally would have gone for and convicted her of much more, because in the end of the day, it was her job to make sure that every single weapon was safe, that live ammunition couldn't have gotten into a prop gun. Well, it's a real gun, but it was supposed to have blank bullets in it. But it is her responsibility. How they're going to be able to go after other people. No, Francie, you can't convict a dead person because they can't defend themselves in a court of law. That's why they never take a case of where it's against a dead person to court. Now, you can try someone in extension, which means that they're not there physically. Maybe they're on the run, or they have fled the country or something, and what I'm saying, on the run. You can be found guilty in that circumstances. So in case that you're ever caught, they can, prove that you had a trial, you had the opportunity to defend yourself, but you went on the run. You can be convicted that way. But if you're deceased, there's no way for you to legally defend yourself against the actual crime itself. So, and what point is there really to go through with the trial? What are you hoping to accomplish? You can't take a dead person and put them on death row. They're already dead. So they took her away fast after the verdict, right? They most certainly did. Well, next, Scott Peterson. I know you guys were all looking forward to this one. Scott Peterson, the scumbag murderer himself, is one step closer to getting a brand new trial. Ladies and gentlemen, I hate to break the bad news to you, But looking at just the discovery motion that has been filed, the status hearing for the status hearing, the Innocence Project, they have a very compelling case that they're putting forward that where injustice, and some evidence that was never looked at, along with new evidence that has been discovered, very well does cast a small doubt in this case that Scott Peterson may not have received a fair trial. Now, they have scheduled a status hearing with the judge for March 12th, where the judge is going to determine at that point if there is enough evidence and enough of everything all together, if it adds up to a point where yes, he will get a new trial, but he is one step closer. And you can read the actual motion itself that the Innocence Project has put forth in front of the judge, and then look at what they obviously they don't go piece by piece in evidence for what they say. It was the reasons that Scott didn't get a fair trial and should be granted a new trial. But they do break down a little bit of where they're actually standing on this and why they are filing this and why they've got this in front of a judge. So that is it for the week. And I'm trying to not close this out. There. Well, there's the comment section. Good evening, good morning, wherever you may be, Rykart. I'm glad you could be here with us this morning. Hope you're doing well. And scrolling through the comment section. Good morning, Mike. Yeah, when it comes to Scott Peterson, I mean, I believe that he's guilty based on I watched the trial itself and followed along not only the trial but I don't have the discovery motions it printed off like I normally would for a case. It's been an awful long time since Scott Peterson was convicted of for killing his wife, Stacey and Lacey, not Stacey, Lacey, and his unborn son. But I've since from the beginning of when I started YouTube and doing all this and to now, I kind of changed how how long I kept records for. I used to keep records on everything, and eventually I filled up not one but two filing cabinets full of documents, and scripts, where I made videos about them and notes and everything else about the trials and everything else that took place. I mean, and I got to the point where it's like I'm going to end up having to get a mini storage, place just to store all these filing cabinets, if I keep on going down this road. So as time went on, some people asked me for the files. So I mean, just for an example, when it came to the Christopher Watts case, I had two full size copier, well, they were copier boxes, but they had the files in them like these. I keep these, this is like a file folder. I had two boxes full of nothing but discovery motions and everything else that and testimony and everything related to this Christopher Watts case. And I had somebody who wanted them, and I was like, hell yeah, you want to pay for shipping, you can have it all. I gave it to them. They had it for 8 months, somewhere in there, and then they shipped it all back to me because they got everything out of it they wanted. Of course, then it took me another month or so to put everything back in order because they didn't put it back in the order that I had it in there. But I still have those, and those one file box takes up one pull out thing from the filing cabinet. These aren't like industrial filing cabinets like you may have seen in an office complex that are like the length of this table. They're only about that deep. But still, and that was just the Christopher Watts case. And now you go back 5 years before that of me doing it, and you can extrapolate just how much of these files I had, and I had to get rid of them. So I don't have the Scott Peterson, all that just to tell you, I don't have the Scott Peterson files anymore. Ooh, angry. I've been watching since he was missing. Missing. Who's been missing? Alex Baldwin is reckless. It was probably planned by Alex's Reichart. I don't know. I can't see why Alex would want to kill the director or the anybody else. I mean, it's an obviously good way to ruin a career. Not that he had a great career, anyways, or any of the Baldwins are really burning it up on the TV screen right now, or in the movie theater. But I mean, he's definitely doing better than his brothers. So I don't know if Alex planned Reichart. Maybe he did. Maybe he's a complete sociopath. There's a lot of sociopaths when it comes to Hollywood. So you never know. Yeah, I corrected myself on that. I'm sorry about that. I said Stacy and I meant Lacey. Lurking in the background. Hi, people. Hello, my peeps, and welcome to this morning's Coffee Brew. Didn't have a lot of crime, cases that I've been following this past week to cover this week. I've been pretty busy out there. It's taken me outside of the studio for the week. It's just the way life goes. When Lacey went missing, me and my grandmother watched all the news and the trials together. Mm. I remember watching, when he was missing and they finally caught him. And he had dyed his hair and was hiding in a car or something. I have a brief memory of that part when he was where he was actually caught at, and then watching the interviews with his girlfriend, who and listening to the audio tapes of him saying that he was in, what was it, France? I think he was in France. He told her on the phone that he was in France celebrating New Year's, and then she found out, saw him on television that yeah, no, you're not in France, you idiot. I can see you on television. I don't know if that timeline's correct. Maybe she knew before he called her and told her that he was in France for New Year's, and they were actually looking for him at that point, and it was all a sting, where she was working with law enforcement. Maybe that's how they got the actual phone call recorded. Is they waited for her to call. I think she reached out to the police though. Paris, yeah, but still, I mean, I'm not going to say that I know 100% for sure that Scott Peterson is guilty. I don't know. I wasn't there. I didn't help take part in the crime. So, I mean, you can never truly say 100% that person's guilty or that person is not. Now, I wasn't there for Lori and Chad killing JJ and Ty Lee, but I mean, I don't know how Chad's going to keep the needle out of his damn arm when he was obviously there. He was seen by the neighbors. He admits that he was there burning brush over the top of Ty Lee, and JJ was less than 3 feet from him underneath a piece of plywood wrapped in plastic and duct tape. How is he ever going to say that he didn't know any of that? That's pretty damning against Chad. Lori had a better chance because she wasn't actually pinged by her cell phone or anything else there. But we already know that Lori was convicted of murder. I at the same time though, in Arizona, I would go after her for the death penalty for for setting up and having Alex kill Charles, in Arizona. Involuntary manslaughter or whatever they may be charging her there. I mean, she's guilty as hell there. I mean, if they can prove that she had Alex kill Charles, which we know that is a very good likelihood, because don't forget, Alex, after he killed Charles, the first phone call he made was to Lori before he called 911. He called Lori. That's actual proof. We've known that for all this time. But when does Chad's trial start, Gayla? At this point in time, they're 2025. They're supposed to start it in April, but I think it's going to get moved out even farther. I would not, and that's just me, Gayla. I would not suspect that the trial will start until after the new year. That's just me, though. If it starts before then, great. But I mean, they're filing motions to kind of move this, kick the can down the road even farther. If I was the DA, there, prosecuting Chad, I would have said, "I'm ready now. Let's go now." But the DA wasn't even ready when they asked for an extension. Again, it's an awful lot of evidence and documents to go through. I'm hooked on Dateline 24/7 streaming on YouTube. I actually watched a Dateline episode the other night on YouTube. What was it? I can't remember which one of the cases it is. I mean, because I'm always following different ones or cold case files. That the actual show, Cold Case Files. I love those shows, but I don't ever watch TV. I'm going to be beginning my drive, guys. Love you guys. Radcart, you have a terrific day and you stay safe out there. A political video coming up. I saw your community post, I think it was, Gemma, about people with disabilities and how do you involve them in politics. Is that what you're talking about? Good morning, Short Nice. It shouldn't be allowed to drag these trials out for years. Yeah, I mean, the public, Short Nice, we all want to see these things wrapped up as soon as possible, but at the same time, you have to give due diligence to make sure that the state doesn't rush into and prosecute the innocent individuals, and you have to give the defense the opportunity to be able to defend the individual who is charged with a crime. Sometimes these things take for a lot longer than we want. I mean, case in point. I mean, look how long Lori was in. Vallow, Daybell was in jail before they actually got her the trial. And we're lucky that the whole thing wasn't thrown out once she went to the mental ward. Sorry for saying that. State medical facility. Smoke them if you got them. Good morning, Inner Peas. Welcome to this morning's Coffee Brew. But yeah, I understand again, Short and Nice, why it's it's frustrating to watch a case. You can get wrapped up in it and watch it be pushed down. To kick the can down the road. And sometimes you can actually change, attorneys, and then they have to get caught up on the case, and then the DA may retire or not be in office anymore, and you got to get a new prosecutor in. If I was innocent, I would demand to be tried quickly. Well, everyone in the United States, Short Nice, has a constitutional right to be tried, in a short period of time, from the day of actual arrest and charges filed against you. You normally have a certain period of time after that, the constitutional right. And this is covered in what I don't say federal constitution, because there's state constitutions that have different, depending upon location, you have a constitutional rights on the state law side, and you have the federal. So it underneath the constitutional right. I'm just giving it as a broad coverage here, but you have the right to be tried within a certain period of time for any crime that you're charged with. They can't keep you in jail indefinitely. Now, I say that with you put a giant asterisk next to that. They can't keep you in jail indefinitely and then without trying you for your crime. Now, underneath the Patriot Act, here's where that asterisk comes in. Underneath the Patriot Act, we have people who are being detained in jails and they've been there 5 years, 8 years, 10 years now, and they've never gone to trial. We've got people we have locked up in Guantanamo Bay who have never been tried for their crimes, and they've been there for years. We have people who are in detention centers in Washington, D.C., New York, and Boston, who are there because they're believed to be combatives of, terrorist organizations, and they have not gone to trial. So that's where the asterisk comes in. I think it's horrible. Jennifer Crumley was convicted of a crime for her son did. Now, Mike, on that aspect with the Crumbleys, because I believe the dad's trial starts this coming week. If I might be wrong about that, but I do believe it's going to be starting this week. I question this: at what point does a parent legal responsibility start and end? With Jennifer Crumley and her being charged in the actual case, there's a lot of things that should have happened there that she didn't do, and her husband, his dad, didn't do. I put myself in the circumstances. I'm just going to give you an example here, putting myself in the circumstance. If I had a teenager who I knew was having issues at school, and I knew that they were being bullied or whatever the circumstances may be, but she knew that day that he had drawn, and all over his mathematics test, kill, I can't be stopped, or whatever it was. But if you knew it that day, I would have taken him home. Was it because she couldn't, take the day off of work? Then you find a way. You find some way. You take them out of school that day. You say, look, maybe we're just going to cool down until we can actually talk, without knowing that they're going to do the school shooting. And she did seem to be, more involved with her horses than she was, worried about her son. And the last thing you do when you have a teenager who is mentally unstable is go and buy them a gun. Why? And then buy them a gun and put it in a safe where the combination to the lock safe is 0000. Now, do I think that she should have been prosecuted for it? I think it's a reach. I really do. And a lot of people, that's not a very popular opinion, that she should have been prosecuted for what her son did. But I do think legally it's a reach, and I think that she has a very good chance on appeal of actually winning. Having the case be retried or something, or being thrown out. I watched the mom of the 5-year-old that was shot and killed supposedly by her 2-year-old get convicted. She too, so many lies. Yeah, I'm not familiar with that one, but that case, Kitty Q, I'm not familiar with that one. I mean, I'm sure that I get so many of these cases about children who killed because somebody didn't store a gun properly, or they bought their kid a gun. But again, when it comes to the Crumbly, or whatever family, Cromley family, I still think that they overreached. The last I heard about Chad Dorman trial, he was asking his confession to be taken off because he claims the detective didn't interrogate him correctly. Huh. Tennessee versus Robin. I can't remember her last name. Oh. But and I was going to say something else about the Cromley case. Is so we used that conviction itself against Jennifer Cromley for what her son did. Okay, now that there is a precedence, okay, of the actual case holding the parent responsible for what their child did, we now have that case in if it stands on appeal or hopefully it doesn't because again I think it's overreach, but where is the next prosecutor going to come with? Your son bullied this kid at school. Let's prosecute the parents for that son for the bullying. You think that that's a reach itself? Well, how can if you can hold the parents responsible for the kid, what the kid did? At what age do you cut it off? If that kid does something at 17 years of age and 6 months, do we go after the parents then? Where do we draw where's the bright line? Hey, little Timmy is 5 years old and on the playground he pushed down a little girl, and she skinned her knee. Let's sue the parents because we have precedents now on holding the parents responsible for that. Let's sue them for emotional distress and the medical bill, and therapy for the next 25 years because little Timmy shoved down the little girl. You think that's a reach, but that's how things in law work. And now extrapolate that out to 17, 18. They're an adult, right? Well, at 17 years of age, you can enter the armed services, military, Army, Marines, Navy, Air Force, Space Force, even. Yeah, that's a real thing, Space Force. But you can enter any branch of military at the age of 17. All you need to do is get your mom or your father, your dad, to sign off that and waive their parental rights and give you over to the military at 17. You can even before then you can join the early Marines, Army, cadets or whatever, or even before that you can join a military school and the same thing that you sign away your child to these services. But they're now the services are legally responsible for your well-being. But that's at 17. Again, you can join the armed services and then before your 18th birthday be shipped overseas to defend this country, foreign or domestically. Why haven't the TBI arrested Candace and Don Wells when the world knows they're guilty of Summer's disappearance? Mike, that's a damn good question. If nothing else, Don Wells is he's an idiot and a drunk. And Candace, um, I mean, yeah. Why haven't they at least, how about, just on child, endangerment charges? They could easily prove, child endangerment, for the disappearance of Summer against the mother, Candace. Why haven't they charged her for that? Well, I mean, there's been almost nothing, going on in that case. At least we out here in the public because I've been following it since it started. But very good question, Galen. I mean, Mike. They should at least charged her with child neglect, sprinkled donuts, yeah, child neglect, child endangerment, and these would all be easily provable just by her own interviews. Don, shit, I don't think he was home. I think he was off getting loaded or something the day that she disappeared or working, whatever he called it. That he's done no help at all. Don Wells has done absolutely nothing to help this case. You'd think they'd care a little bit more. They were offered a private detective. In case you guys don't remember this, but they were both offered a private detective to look into the case to help, and they took some of that private detective's help to do a search grid of a field area and wooded area that was near the home. Nothing was turned up in that area, but they could have extended it out, but they decided no, they didn't need him anymore. I'm surprised that someone else, in the community or outside of the community, doesn't pick up the bill, and send the paper, a private detective to look into it, or a former police officer. You know, they retire all the time. Especially, you can find some retirees, officers in Tennessee. They don't all, retire and go to the Appalachian Trail or someplace. The Wagner case in Ohio has been pushed to 2025. I saw something about that, Tina. The Tennessee District Attorney may just want to go for the higher crime instead of child neglect. That's true. That could be, but after all this time, where are we at in the case? I mean, in the beginning of the case of the disappearance of Summer Wells, I thought that there may have been a possibility that maybe one of the ladies that Summer looked up to from church may be, responsible for, taking her. Now, don't at the same time, we can all think about the most horrible thing, that possibly happened this summer. Okay, we can all think of that, but don't forget that children who have disappeared for even longer than Summer Wells has been missing have been found safe, and alive and safe someplace else. That somebody took them, and didn't necessarily do, disgusting things that you can, add in there to them. They just took them because they were alone, and they didn't want to be alone. But yeah, they did keep them in captivity, and obviously, took them from their families. But there have been cases out there, quite a few of them that have been solved, years later, and they find out that like the child was taken at 10, and they find him at 19. They find him at 20, 25. And that happens, unfortunately. I'm trying to take the message off of the screen, but it will not let me. It wants me to time Mike out. I don't know why. I don't want to click on that. I'm just trying to take the message off the screen. Oh well, Mike, you get to keep your message on the screen because it will not. It's not even giving me the option. There we go. Elizabeth Smart, good example, Francie, but J.C. Gugard, yeah. But Elizabeth Smart, yeah, she was she was mentally, and physically abused while she was, held captive. But again, years later, Elizabeth Smart was, I hate to say it, recovered, but yeah, definitely. JC, was another good example of a child who was taken was found years later alive. The case in Florida right now, Madeline Soto, is so horrible. Yeah, Kitty Coo. I've been sent the case, the Soto case, by several viewers who emailed me or messaged me on the fake book. Which, if you guys are following it, or a member of the page on Facebook, you can go ahead and just leave it now. I either that, or I have to remove everyone in order to close it down. I'm not going to be using Facebook anymore in the future for my channel, because Facebook and their monetization strategy is worse than YouTube, and that is not a joke. I get paid 1/10 of a cent on YouTube for every view that I get. That's deplorable, right? We can all agree 1/10 of a cent is deplorable. Where Facebook, and their monetization platform, you have to have so many views before you actually can be monetized. And then they say, well, this one didn't get, the same amount of views as this one, so we're not going to give you anything for it at all. But we will give you something for this one. And then, well, maybe you have 3 or 4 others that only get 10,000 views. We're not going to monetize that, but we'll monetize this one here. So you, out of like 6 or 8, you can have monetization for 2 out of 6 or 8. And it's just crazy. It's like, at least with YouTube, I'm making 1/10 of a cent, for every one of them, every view and every person who's watching it. I mean, at least I'll eventually end up with 40 cents. But I'm done with Facebook. I'm just gonna close the whole thing down on there, and I'm just gonna stick to Twitch, YouTube, X, formerly known as Twitter. Because right now I'm streaming to Twitch, Twitter, X, and YouTube. I'm streaming to the 3 of them. New info they put out. She shouldn't have been for the public to see. I won't search for a new one. Hmm. Do-do-do. You always have to wonder what's going on with the case when there's so much, time between the last update from, law enforcement or the DA or whoever it might be, the person in charge, of a case of missing child or murder investigation. Yeah, you hope that they're continuing to work on it, but again, with we're using the Summer Wells as an example, but they haven't said anything. We don't have a description of anything to look for. Was there a car that was seen in the area, that we should be looking at that they haven't tracked down? Michael Vaughn, Monkey, there's a case there, that where it's gone completely, dormant. We're like, what the hell's going on there? And there's other cases like that as well. Baby doll, y'all, what do you think about the Sebastian Rogers, 15-year-old missing from on the spectrum? 2 parents interviewed. I can't decide if they're sus or not. I have not followed the Sebastian Rogers case. I've seen it came across on my feed about the missing poster for the. Have you seen this child? The 15-year-old. And I don't know. So I can't answer that, baby doll. Maybe somebody else. Is Gemma still here? I think Gemma may have shared it, or and I know who else was it? There was a couple other YouTubers who do are in the true crime community who shared it. But I'll look into it this here today or tomorrow. See where the case is at. Hope they find them safe. It doesn't look good. Well, I feel sorry for anybody who is missing, who is on the spectrum. My son is on the autism spectrum, and that's one of the biggest things that I worry about all the time. Him running off and disappearing. Because my son loves to run off right now. I mean, he loves to do that because he thinks it's funny. Or he likes to hide in places, and play like hide and seek, but he doesn't bother to tell you that he's playing that game. And there's nothing that it'll make you panic, and faster and keep, But I hope Sebastian is safe wherever he is. Sprinkle Donna says it sounds very suspicious to me. Yeah, I'll look into the case later on today or tomorrow for sure, and see if I can pull up the interviews and stuff for it. At first, I thought maybe he took off, but it's starting to not make sense what the parents are saying. Hmm. Well, be the parent keeping my kid on a leash. Can't keep him. That's the thing with like my using my son as an example. I mean, he could be sitting in one spot just playing, with other kids at the playground. Maybe he's running around, enjoying life. You got to let them be children, kids. You got to let them, you know, discover their environment, make friends, and everything else, and develop in that case. But we only take my son to places where we know there's a boundary fence, so he can't run and get the hell out of there because he has no fear of cars. He has no fear of other people, and not that I want to put fear in him, but I mean I want him to be safe. I don't want him to get hurt, and I certainly the hell don't want him to run off and disappear. And if he was to take off, and he didn't, he got say like he was able to take off into like a park. My son would eventually get to a point where he would just stop running and he'd crawl into something underneath a tree, like a pine tree or something, and just kind of like hide away from everyone. Especially if he was fearful, and he didn't understand, what was going on around him. But I don't know. I'm not saying that that's the case. It's happening with Sebastian, but you never know. My mom put up a free sign for me when I went out. Free child. World is so much different when we were kids. Oh hell yeah, it is. Oh yeah, it is. And it's not just the internet. The internet brings it right here in front of you every single day. But yeah, this world is completely different from when I was a child. Well, even at 7 or 15, I mean, the world has changed drastically. When I moved to this town for the first time, my mom gave me and my two sisters, but no, youngest sister was just a baby, but she gave us a piece of paper and a pencil, and she brought us out to the street corner and said, "Walk that way until the streets all end, and every single street that you come to, write down the name of it," because they didn't have maps of the town. So we did. We walked probably about 6 miles in one direction until the streets ended, and we wrote down every single name of the street that as we like one line was the name of the street, next line was another street, and so she could at least get bearings for the town. And we would go out in the morning, and it'd take us all day to walk to the end of the thing, and then walk back because you're kids, you get distracted as you walk along. Remember when you took off your on your bike and came home for lunch and back out again until dark? No cares in the world. We used to leave the house, and we knew it was time to go back home when the street lights came on. If the street light came on, you went back home. Not so much for lunch. If we wanted something to drink, we drank out of a garden hose. I survived, but I think they said something about a neighbor said they led them to a landfill, but they didn't say what was said. I think that the news article that I briefly looked at said that they didn't find anything in the landfill. It gave them no discovery on what happened, in the disappearance. Sebastian leaving the house, no scent, nothing caught on cameras. Hmm. Cameras are everywhere, but you at least they tell you that. But there are ways. My son knows how to get past the our security system. He's found that little nook in the security system where you can't be seen leaving, but you coming in, it actually picks them up. The trash person said he remembered exactly where he dumped that day. Garbage man said the trash can felt extra heavy that morning, supposedly. Hmm. And he remembered that out of all of the trash cans he picked up that day. But when he dumped it, he didn't see anything suspicious that made him stop. Sounds like they suspect the parents. Oh, but there are a lot of creepy ass people out there. You know, if they find a kid, wandering around, they just take the kid, keep it for themselves, do whatever they want. You never know who's in your area. They have the sex offender registry here in America, and they tell you where all the sex offenders that have been released are, but they don't tell you where the sex offenders are that haven't been convicted. Hell, my next door neighbor could be one for all I know. I just, I would know if they're on the registry, but I wouldn't know if they've never been convicted. That's the world we live in, though. You never know who you're living next to anymore. I mean, just in my example, I don't know the neighbors who live behind me on the other side of the block. I know my son has gotten over the fence into their backyard. And I don't know who lives to the left of me, but I know the people to the right of me and the people directly across the street. You run background check, it still might not tell you they're a pedo. Yeah, our garbage cans are X-rayed. Our entire garbage truck is X-rayed going into the landfill. They're actually here where I live locally. It didn't even start off as part of like using the X-ray for the garbage truck for anything other than they were looking for radioactive materials that were being dumped into the landfill. My neighbor looks like an escape. He escaped from a mental hospital. Is that the same one who lives across the street from me? Because I might be look like the escaped mental patient. Elizabeth Smart blames pornography. Elizabeth Smart is a very smart young lady now, and she's helped out a lot of people who are escaping violence and children who have been exploited and then recovered. Elizabeth Smart, very kudos to her. Pornography may have been involved in in her actual kidnapping. I can't remember the guy's name, but I'm sure somebody does. What are they looking for when they X-ray your cans or garbage truck? Things that are not supposed to be in the trash. Would be my guess, because that's what I mean. They're here. Oh, so back to that. That's what they originally started X-raying the trucks for. Here in my local municipality was because they were looking for radioactive materials, and they've had quite a few success things where people have dumped everything from liquid mercury in the trash, and that goes to the landfill. They found, you would think that, oh, liquid mercury. Why would you would looking for that? They're not looking for liquid mercury. They're looking for things that are not supposed to be there, and go into the landfill. And then everything that comes through is sorted, and then they pull all the cardboard and glass out of the trash, and that all gets crushed up and resold. But that's just my area. But if somebody dumped a body in the trash here, they would know. And they've actually found, unfortunately, we have a couple of children that are buried in our local cemetery that are just John Doe, Jane Does. They don't have a name. Nobody knows who they are. My peeps, I'm glad I don't have neighbors. Our trucks are X-rayed at the landfill too. All our trash, 3 cans must be separated into organics, recycling, and regular trash. Here as well, Gala. We have a blue can that is just for recyclable. We have a yard waste can and then we have a regular trash can. Everything. No, it's done that way. They used to charge us $5 a month for the yard waste and for the recycling, and then the city found that they could actually make quite a bit of money on collecting up all of our recyclables. Aluminum, glass, cardboard, plastic, everything. That goes into it. They crush it up and resell it, or shred it and then resell it. They're making actually a pretty good profit, which is helping reduce our actual trash bill every single month. Now, they're where I live, there are only what 68,000 people in this town. So, but there's more towns around. Total population, take all this, the outside, communities. We've got about 200,000 here, but everything is sorted. You have to sort it, and they'll fine your ass if they catch you at dumping things. I don't know how they do it, but that's right on the bill. They'll fine you if they catch you dumping yard waste in with the recycling or vice versa and mixing them all together. First you've ever heard of trash being X-rayed? I think a lot of municipalities do it short and nice. I just don't know where they do it all over the world. Inner peas, it's new to inner peas as well. Well, a lot of places do it because you never know, especially if they do some kind of like sorting of the trash, like they do here on top of it all. I mean, you don't want you don't want somebody who's working on an assembly line, trash is coming down a conveyor belt, to be crapped up with plutonium or something. Not that somebody's dumping plutonium, in the trash, but they may be dumping things that are irradiated in the trash. You don't want them sorting through the trash and find hypodermic needles, in the trash. You're supposed to put those in a sharps container and then recycle the entire sharps container. But in places like where I live, where they do that, it makes sense to X-ray it and look for things that are not supposed to be there. Maybe a better place to inevitable humans will find a way to be vile. Oh yeah, the only animal species ever known to destroy everything around them. They find more bodies, wouldn't they? You would think that they would, short and ice. Like I was talking about the Jane Doe and John Doe that they have buried in our local cemetery. Both of those were found in the trash. One was a child who they know was a live birth, and was about less than a month old, and was murdered and then dumped into a trash container. And the other one was, I think, 2 years old, but they don't know who they are. They know that they have the DNA, and if it ever pops, a match, with a family member, whoever, I'm sure they'll eventually, convict someone. Can flippers who go early into the morning and flip the lids and check what in your can? Hmm. I don't know if they have that here, Gala, but I wouldn't be surprised if they do. How does that even happen, Will? No one is missing these kids. You have to look at the entire area that I'm at, where I live. We have a lot of agriculture around me. Definitely not in the city that I live in, but in the outskirts, and everything else. There's a lot of agriculture, and there are a lot of people who move in and out from California, to Oregon, to Washington State, where I live, and they move on to other parts of the United States. Maybe they're in the agricultural business. Maybe they're fruit pickers or vegetable pickers, whatever. But there's a lot of migratory people who move in and out of this area, and they're here today. They may have children today. Maybe they get to the San Antonio, Texas, or whatever next, where their next stop is, and they don't have children. People in San Antonio aren't going to know what happened to your children, and they're not here anymore. and the children are gone. And there is a lot of shit where well, I sent them off to the grandparents. No one's going to question that. They're living with the uncle in Chicago. No one's going to question it farther than that. Well, I didn't know you have relatives there, but I guess you probably do. You know, it happens. But there's a large population of migratory people who come in and out of this area. Now I can't say for sure that both of those ethnicity wise of those two, Jane Doe and John Doe, match the ethnicity of the people who may be seasonal in this area and then are gone. I don't know that part of it. If that's a connection, it could help. For all I know, they could be children who who lived here, and maybe they were born in a church or community that doesn't necessarily have birth certificates or live births in a hospital. Maybe they were born at home with a midwife, and they decided, well, just get rid of them. That happens. Not everywhere. Not every child is born in a hospital where every 100% of everything is documented. There are people who do not take, go to, get prenatal vitamins or any of that, so they're tracked that they're actually pregnant, or there's no, ID card for men that says you have 10 children or 5 or 1, and this is where that child is. Lori said JJ was at the movie. Well, she tried to. She tried to get to say he was at the movie and he was with her friend. What the hell's her name? I could picture her, but it doesn't matter. Lori Daybell's ex sister in law questioned it about JJ's whereabouts. Yeah. Yeah. Ty Lee, a lot of people originally suspected that Lori may have married her off to into the fundamentalist LDS church members that they're connected to. Melanie, thank you, Melanie. Thank you, Interpeace. But yeah, she tried to say that JJ was with Melanie Gibbs, but would anybody be able to track where? Let's just hypothetically say that they didn't murder Tylee, and she was married off into a fundamentalist movement. They don't exactly have ID cards, or go to a public school where they'd be tracked. Maybe at her age they say, you know what, you don't need to go to school anymore. You've already had too much of that, and indoctrination from the education system. There people were born off the grid like that all their entire lives. They have no records at all of who they are. 75% of the fire department just resigned in Cincinnati. Ooh, boy, that's not good. You kind of need them fire departments when you have a fire or an emergency situation, extraction from a car accident, medical need. What's the reason for that? I bet probably overpay and benefits. That'd be my guess. Lift assist. Newsfeed didn't say. Well, at least they weren't fired. Yeah, it's crazy. Truck rescue in Louisville last week. I've seen it, in the news where there was an entire police department. I want to say it was in Texas, but they fired every single member of the sheriff's department. They fired them all. Fired the head of the sheriff's department, the sheriff. They fired all those who were underneath it, and they said, "You guys got to reapply," because it had something to do with the collective bargaining agreement or some issue with their their benefits. That's what they tried to do. Well, it's going to be a hell of a legal fight because they fired them. They're like, oh, now you can reapply because you're not underneath that that contract anymore. And then there's the Seattle, was it Seattle police officer who was a motorcycle cop who was escorting the vice president in the motorcade whose his motorcycle, and then he went off the bridge, and he's fighting for medical benefits. Things happen like that, and there were a lot of officers who were like pissed at him, said that they were going to walk off the force if they didn't find a way to keep his medical benefits going. I think he got like 120 days or something like that of medical, and then long term was supposed to kick in, but it was going to cost him and his wife like $1,000 a month. I think who did that? Somebody else covered that story though, but they didn't have the update. The world we live in, isn't it? Not everything is fair to everybody. It sucks to see people who are fighting for their livelihood and their work or wherever, and then the government municipality comes in and says, yeah, we just don't like how much money you're making. We can balance our budget and save a lot of money by just firing everybody and hiring less qualified individuals to do your job. I noticed there's been an increase in crime in Ohio lately. Hmm. Are a lot of stories that are making the news from Ohio. I'll give you that. That in Colorado, if anybody pinpoints that Colorado's seen a spike in crime, they definitely have. But you have to look at the total number of people who have been moving into the state of Colorado, especially like when you think of the oil fields in Colorado. There's been an awful lot of people who are moving to the state of Colorado, and along with it, crime spikes. The more people you have, but is it out of whack as the number of crimes per 100,000? I don't know if that's the case in Ohio or not. It sucks. Can't even walk down walking trails without pepper spray and an alarm around my neck, and I'm still scared. Oh, I'm sorry, baby doll. Michigan too, Colorado. Inner peace, Colorado. Yeah, that's where Barry Morphew and Christopher Watts is from Colorado, and they committed their crimes there. I mean, allegedly for Barry Morphew. Allegedly. In the public eye, oh, Barry, you're guilty of sin. You killed Suzanne, and we all know it. But maybe down the road we find out that there was a serial killer coming through town and did it. Such a beautiful place, Colorado. So expensive these days. Yeah, my sister lives just outside of Denver. I shouldn't say just outside, like a neighboring community. She's about 17 miles, 18 miles from Denver, and it's getting expensive for her to live there. They just moved 5,000 illegals into Ohio. Now, with that, I say that everyone who's watching this, somewhere along the lines, your grandparents or somebody was an immigrant. We're a nation of immigrants in a melting pot for the world, and along with that comes the crimes and the tribulations of a country that has always welcomed in their poor, their huddled masses, those escaping persecution, and those looking for a better future. That is the United States. Now, do we need border security? Oh, hell yeah, we do. But it's not just the southern border. We need to secure both the northern and the southern. Colorado is having the same results as California has with overpopulation. But why isn't anybody moving to Wyoming? I mean, the same shit that is in Colorado is in Wyoming. Why don't people move there? I actually stopped a baby. She was probably 18. Ooh, come on back here. There we go. She was probably 18, both earbuds in. I told I wasn't trying to tell her what to do, but maybe one earbud was safer. Hmm. Tell that to the girl's parents who Biden, illegal immigrant, killed. What, Mike? What should I tell them? That, yeah, he should have been in the country. All right. How many Americans, have gone abroad and committed murder? What should we tell their families? I mean, I'm not disputing the fact that he shouldn't have been in the country and that he should have been, never allowed in. I'm not disputing that. I don't think anybody's going to dispute that. Well, if they have a brainstem, I mean, I'm sure there's probably people on the internet who are taking the opposite view of it. That we should just open up all borders, and let everybody flow in and out. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that we're a nation of immigrants, but and that's who we are. That's what we were founded on. And what we were doing, when we came here and we kicked the Indians off the Native Americans off of their land. We saw it, we took it, and we made it ours. But we have to have reform, and we need to strengthen our borders to stop people from coming in. And it's not just Biden, who's responsible. That we've had, a broken, immigration policy, and if you like it or not, I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. We've had a broken immigration policy in America for over 30 years. That's a fact. That the border, patrol in America has been saying for 30 years that we need to stop this. The wall is a joke because it only covers certain parts and you can't put it through the mountains. You can't put it through the elevations that way. And they've already just put ladders up on it and climbed the hell over the way it is now or under it. So, yeah, it may slow them down. Great. You slow them down, but at what cost? And we shouldn't, be allowing everybody in and giving them a cell phone and say, show up for an asylum hearing, in 9 months to 12 months from now. I'm not saying that at all. We send them back. We just stop the border all the way around. We don't let anybody in. And if we do let them in, we vet them before we let them in. I'm not trying to be racist here. And it's not against, people who are escaping poverty and political, unrest in Latin America, or wherever they may be coming from, coming from China, or wherever, according to Dr. Phil and his experience at the border, where he saw thousands of military aged men moving into America, coming through the border down in Mexico. I'm not saying that that everything is right. There's a right and a wrong way to do everything. You have to say, look, can we conceivably take people in without harming the status and the quality of life in certain areas? You have 300,000 people come through the border. That's ridiculous. I mean, it's ridiculous. You can't keep that up, and that's per year. Where are you going to put them all? Where's everybody going to be? My mother's side of the family all lived in Wyoming. Extremely cold, snow, stormy there. Gala, I'm from Wisconsin. People live there. I don't know why they moved there, but they did. I mean, when my great grandfather, came through from Ireland to Wisconsin, why did he pick Wisconsin of all the places in the world to move to? I mean, they're much, more habitable, climates, and, he could have moved to, but he didn't. He moved to Wisconsin. That's where he decided to go. Wyoming is cold and barren, and there's nothing there. Well, before they settled Wisconsin, there wasn't a hell of a lot there either. All is welcome to me as long as they work, pay taxes, and are lawful. That's very true, Gayla. Immigrants come in legally, illegals come in illegally. True, Mike. I'm not being racist to what your country to be secured. Every other country secures their borders. Well, we try to secure our borders here, some, but we're doing an awful job at it. Again, for 30 years, that we've known. Who look at how many people have been from this side of the aisle and that side of the aisle in the last 30 years, and they haven't fixed it because they made it a political issue instead of a security issue. It shouldn't be a political issue. It should be a security issue that everyone agrees to. And saying, well, this one is responsible and over that one. This one talked tough on it. And what did they actually get accomplished? Did building a wall along the border, did it actually slow the actual immigration into America? No, they just walk around it. And there's like places like along the border where you can go right now today, take a little tour out to it and sit there and watch them walk down the wall and then around the wall. And then what? Now they're in America. Well, you have to do something. You can either put them on a bus and bring them back and then watch it repeat, and they'll just keep on coming back. They're not running through the desert where there's nobody around anymore. They're coming right there, and they're coming right up to the immigration services, to the border security, and they're like, "Hey, I want political asylum. I'm escaping, Guatemala or wherever they're from. I'm escaping, persecution in Korea or wherever they may be coming from, because they're all flying into Mexico or from wherever, Latin America, and they're just coming and walking around the wall." And you can't bring it all the way out into the ocean, for miles, and if then they would just take a boat and go around it. It's not security. But now, I'm sure people will unsubscribe from me from that. So thank you for, on your way out the door. Common sense border security is all I'm saying. We have to limit the amount of people you let into the country. And for what it's worth, Mike, my great grandfather and his brother, when they came to America, they came here legally from Ireland, but not all my family did. Some of them immigrated and came from Ireland to Canada, the Nova Scotia area, and then walked into America. And they had no immigration status to be here, but they did it illegally. And that was back a long, long time ago. So, and the only one that I can think of in my entire family that really committed any like serious issues or broke the law. Well, that'd be not my great grandfather, but my great grandfather. May have been connected to bootlegging, back during Prohibition, but I mean he wasn't like making it; he was just running it, moving it from place to place. That was illegal, but it still is illegal, to bootleg. But it wasn't until my sister's son, he's like the first real criminal in our entire family. The movies make it look like it's hard to get in. What was that Robin Williams movie where he defected to Russia? Ooh, I don't know. Um, don't know the name of the movie. But there's also, the Tom Hanks one where he got stuck at the airport because his country was no longer, terminal for Tom Hanks. My grandmother lied about where she was born, she was from, because she didn't want us to know how old she was. Well, speaking of my great great grandfather and his brother, when they came through Ellis Island, they screwed all their immigration records up. They, my great great grandfather, from my speaking of my dad's side of the family, my last name is Finley, Finley, and his brother got the last name of Finney, Finney, no L, and added an N in place of the L. They're biological born, in the same house, same home and everything in Northern Ireland, and they immigrated one and two coming through, Ellis Island. Same person, probably, transcribed their information as coming through Ellis Island and screwed it up. It's all like Scarface. You still don't know? Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to wrap up this morning's coffee brew. Here, I have to take off. I have to go to a birthday party. Huh? It's that time of the year. Birthday parties abound for children. So my son is going to a gymnastics gym today for a birthday party. But I got to take off. We have to, get him ready, and I have to feed him. Francie, I haven't made breakfast yet. It's almost 9:30. So I know if he's not up now, wondering where his breakfast is, he's going to be really soon. So got to get him fed and taken care of, and get ready to go to the birthday party at 11. So everyone, thank you again. Give us a thumbs up on the way out, if you would, please. Um, and I hope that, if you have the availability, that tomorrow, at 4 o'clock on Pacific time, five Mountains, 8 o'clock on the east coast. I'm on the west coast, east coast. As the scroll has been going by this entire time, but I hope that you have a wonderful week. If you can join us for trivia, that'd be great. But everyone, take care. And Francie, in case you're wondering, what I'm making for breakfast. All right, so this morning I'm making waffles, Belgian waffles from scratch, along with sausage links, strawberries, orange juice, and a cup of milk. That's for my son. Uh, I'm not sure if my wife will have any strawberries. She might have blueberries. She prefers fresh blueberries, and I've got them both from the store the other day. But that's for breakfast. All right, everyone, take off. I'm taking off. You all have a great day today. Bye. The inner peace is now hungry. That's what we do here. We make people hungry. Have a great one, everyone.